Today we'll be learning Image Hashem Daf Nazayin and Beis. We need to go back to the Mishnah on Daf Nazayin Amud Aleph to get the hemshech of what the Gemara is talking about. So in the Mishnah we had Das Reb Meir, that a city has a karfuf around it. Every city has a karfuf around it, and the measurement of the tchum starts outside the area of the karfuf, and the length of the karfuf, the depth of the karfuf is 70 amos and 2/3. Then the Chachamim said that the whole concept of karfuf is not about where you measure start measuring the tchum. The concept of karfuf is that if you have other buildings or cities within the area of the karfuf, so if you have other buildings or cities within the area of the karfuf, it's considered a continuation of the city, but only if you have another building or city within the area of the karfuf. Only then is it continued an extension. The city has been extended to the, and the building becomes part of the city, or the other city, and this city become one. Then we had a whole discussion. How much is between two cities? How much area is a karfuf? If it's 70 amas or 141 amas, 70 amas 2/3, or 140. So it was all the anyway. So we have another part of the Mishnah, and the Mishnah says clearly that if you have two cities and you have between the two cities you have 104. It says in two parts: 70 amas and a bit for one city, and 70 amas and a bit for another city. The kids are in total 141 amas. So it's 141 amas minus the. So if it's just that and not more, so then the two cities combine to become one city. So we said that two cities can combine to become one city. In other words, that we counted a karfuf for each one of the cities, because the measurement of 141 is obtained by allowing a karfuf for each one of the cities in order to combine. So this was a question on the Mando Amar that said that you only, between two cities, you only have there was a question on the Mando Amar that says between two cities you only have one karfuf. So he answered and he said that this opinion, which gives you 141 amas between two cities, is the opinion of Reb Meir. And the logic of that is that the Chachamim that say you can combine anything which is within 70 amas is considered attached. So if it's 70 amas, if it's 70 amas, within 70 amas 2/3, it's considered attached. That's according to this person's opinion. According to this person's opinion, anything within 70 amas 2/3 is considered attached. And so therefore, even between two cities, you can only have one karfuf. You can't allow for two karfufs, according to this opinion. This is not Rav Huna's opinion. It's the other Peschia Barav's opinion. But according to Reb Meir, he says that a city which nothing to do with connecting, the tchum of the city starts outside the karfuf area. So every city, but it's open city, it's not connecting to nothing. You have the karfuf is considered, the karfuf area is considered part of the city, and the tchum you only start measuring the tchum outside it. So according to Meir, it makes sense that if you have two cities, that you count 141 amas, because each city extends 70 amas outside the city. Since each city extends to 70 amas outside the city. So therefore, if you have two cities, so they will, of course, if they extend into each other, they will be considered one city. So therefore, you have 141 amas between the two cities. So it's a sensible arrangement, although it's a little bit difficult in the saying of the Mishnah, but certainly one which you can, you can argue that this is Rabbi Rav's argument that that the part of the Mishnah which gives you 141 amas between two cities to be considered one city is basically only the opinion of Reb Meir, because according to Chachamim, where the measurement of karfa is only to connect to something else, so there cannot be, according to him, there cannot be two karfas, because if to connect, if it's within the space of 70 amas, that's it. You don't say every city has its own karfa. You cannot say that. According to according to Reb Rav. Anyway, so now the Gemara says, Hamani Reb Meir. Okay. So this part of the Mishnah, which says you have 141 amas, is Reb Meir. So the Gemara needs to explain. Reb Meir, if it's Reb Meir, it seems to be a repeat. Once Reb Meir has already said that a city has a kafaf around it, so it's obvious there is no need for the second part of the Mishnah, which according to Rabbi Rav is also only following Reb Meir. There's no need for that, because once you say that every city has 70 amas around it, so like I said before, if both cities are next to each other, so if the extension of each one of the cities, the 70 amas of each of the cities meet, so it's considered one city. So Gemara answers, tzricha. You do need, no. It needs to say both did. The imeahi would only say the first halacha. I would have thought, chad lechada v'chad litrutre. I would have thought, that every city has the karfev is part of the city. In other words, but for two cities, I would have thought that it's also the same, because every city needs an area outside it. But the area which needs outside it is, therefore, the tchum. You start measuring the tchum from after the 70 amas. But still, you can argue, if we have two cities next to each other, the cities are not extending into each other. On the contrary, there is the open space of the city is the karfa. The karfa is an open space of the city. And so therefore, since the karfa is an open space of the city, so as long as each city has open space, you don't count two karfas. Now, even a kuntramer, that each city, you say the city extends to 70 and to 70 amas and 2/3, and then you start counting the tchum. It's not the pshat that the city is bigger. The city is not bigger. The city ends by the wall of the city, let's say. It's the wall of the city. So the city ends by the wall of the city, except that you need an open space. The open space serves the city. And since the open space serves the city, so therefore, you start counting tchum from outside it, because the open space serves the city. And the distance outside the city, since it serves the city, it's still part of the city. But it's, in essence, it serves the city. It's not the city itself. And so therefore, if you can have the open space can serve two cities. And therefore, if you have two cities next to each other, we don't say that it's one city just because it's less than 141 amas. We don't need 70, twice 70 amas and for one for each city. We don't need that, because as long as you have open space, serve the city, and the open space can serve two cities as well. So therefore, I would have thought that therefore I wouldn't have known this halacha, that if I have known that you start counting the tchum only from outside the 70 amas, I would not know the halacha that you have two cities next to each other, you give each city a 70 amas. Chad l'tarti. Kamash malon. So it says no. Kedarti trei avinu. So therefore, the Mishnah has to say in the latter part of the Mishnah, it has to say that if you have two cities, it's actually considered part of the city and belonging to the city. The 70 amas is not the pirush that a city needs a bit of an open space. The pirush is that that's considered part of the city. The 70 amas is part of the city. Therefore, if the two 70 amas meet, so that means that the cities are connected. Okay, so there's a chiddush in that. The Yashmin halacha, but you said only the second halacha. So then I wouldn't have known that a city you start counting the tchum outside the 70 amas. The Yashmin halacha mishum the tchikatash mishayim. It would say that between two cities, each city you have to give for each city 70 amas, open space. That's all considered part of the city. So I would have thought, when is this applying? That this principle that you give each city 70 amas and consider part of the city when it's a crowded area. When it's a crowded area, there is no open spaces. So then, at least each city needs to have an open area of 70 amas. And if it isn't, that you don't have it, so then it's not a separate city, it's just one city. Because a city has to have its own 70 amas. But I would have thought that's only if the city, when the cities are next to each other, crowded. When the cities are crowded, so each city needs to have an open space. But in the case you have a city standing by a standalone city, a city which is standing alone, I would have said it doesn't need this open space. What's it open space for? There's loads of open space. There's a kilometer, 2 kilometers, half a kilometer of open space. Well, what's the problem? The city is a city. The city limits. I would have thought that the city limits stop at the walls of the city. Outside, that's needed for the city. This city in the middle of nowhere, it doesn't need anything. Why you need an open space? Look, it's so airy and all that. So the kids, so therefore I would have thought that in such a situation, therefore you need to have both missions. Therefore you need to have both. Then in the kids, one is able to argue that in the Mishnah, the two cases of the Mishnah are both being said by Rabbi. Okay. Tanan, we learned a Mishnah. Sorry, we learned in our Mishnah. Similarly, also three villages. Hamshuloshim, which are okay. So let's start with saying that the three cities are in a straight line. That will be easier. So we have the three villages which are a straight line. So im yesh ben shnayim hachitzonim, if between the two outside ones there is me'ah v'arboim v'achas amo ushlish, if there is between the two outside ones 141 amas and a third, so between the two outside ones you have 141 amas and a third. So, and not more. So the middle one is going to make them all be like one city. So if there's more space, in other words, between the two cities, you have the city Aleph and city Base. Right, they're two outside ones. City Gimel is the middle one. Now, city Gimel is the middle one. So between Aleph and Beis, you have 141 amas. Now, we mean 140 amas besides the area which is taken up by city Gimel. So they have city Gimel, I don't know how big it is, but the area between city Aleph and city Gimel, and between, village Aleph, village Gimel, and village Base and village Gimel. The area between these two, that is in total for both sides, let me say, the total area between both sides to the right and the left of city Gimel, the total area there is 141 amas. So if it's 141, so then it's considered all connected and it's all one. If it's a bit more than that, then the third one is not connected. So you're allowing basically, timer, So how come that the space is, how come we're allowing for the space, for space of 141? You have the one outside one, and you have the last outside one. How come we're allowing that besides the city, which is in the middle, we're allowing to have such a large gap of 141 as well, divided obviously between the two spaces? How come? Because there's a city in the middle. Because that's the scenario, giving us a scenario of a city in the middle. Timer the ikem tzoi, because it's a middle city. Holeka tzoi loy. But if there's no middle one, then we would not give this space. So, since in order to come up with a number of 141, we needed to put a city in the middle. So come to choy is that between two cities down, without a third one, you do not have the amount of two karfas. Yeah, you can only have one karfa, which is 70 amas. So this is a raya to Chiyah Barav against Rav Huna. So to Yufti the Rav Huna, it's a question of Rav Huna, because we see that only in such a scenario do we allow between that there should be the combined area of 141 amas. Omalach Rav Huna. So Rav Huna will answer. There's one question which I want to ask, and if we look at the Mishnah, we examine the Mishnah, it might be difficult why the Gemara is actioning itself on this interpretation that that the 141 amas is not referring to the distance between city. Let's call the cities just 1, 2, 3. 2 is the middle one. Just make it easier. So 1, 2, and 3. 2 is the middle one. The side one is 1, and 3 are the side ones. And so why is the Gemara actioning itself that 141 is the space both between, when you add up between 1 and 2 and 2 and 3, when you add up those two spaces, it's 141. Maybe the intention of the Mishnah is that you have 141 amas between 1 and 2, and of course you're allowed to have another 141 amas between 3 and 2. So maybe that's the intention of the Mishnah. Then it would be fine. It would work there. So Tosfos sort of argues. He says that the language should have been the Mishnah slightly different. And later, when we'll explain the Mishnah according to Rav Huna with a slightly different scenario. So we're going to explain Rav Huna with a different scenario, and I'm not going to go into the details of places what the language should be. He's just saying that if in the scenario when you have all lined up on one line, all the three cities in one line, and if you're allowed to have between every single city 141, the language should have been a bit different, and therefore the language as it's in the Mishnah suggests that it's 141, which is shared between both sides of the middle city. 147 to both sides of the middle city. But in the scenario, which is what I was going to speak about later, then we can say it differently, which you will say differently, and that's okay. So there's something in the Dio Kalosh in the Mishnah which limits us to understand it in such a way. That's all. Okay. The kids are advanced. So we have this question. It's like Kasha on Rav Huna, that because it seems in the Mishnah they only allowed 70 amas between each city. It's like Omar Rabbi was. Sorry, Omar Rabbi Omar Idi Omar Bchnina Loy Mishloshim Mamash. That this we're not talking about when they're all lined up in one line. The three cities are all lined up. But it's like a segel situation, the opposite of a segel. It says when you have the two cities, you have a triangular situation. You have two cities, let's say at the base of the triangle, let's put two cities at the base of the triangle, and the top of the triangle, you have another city. And that's what we're talking about. So sorry. We learn as that the pshat and the mishnah is different. Rabbi, that the pshat and the mishnah doesn't mean it's all lined up in one line, the three villages. Elaroyin kol shilu matlim tzoy b'neim v'yuma shaloshim v'ein bein zelazeh elakuf memamo v'achas ushlish. Also, okay. So what's the scenario? So there we have this three villages, and then the 3 points of this triangular shape. The 3 points, we have a village at each point. So we say that if on the two base, I'm using that type of language, the two base villages, if the space between them allows for that you can place the village which is on the top of the triangle, you can place it between these two cities. So if we will place the village which is on the top of the triangle, I mean obviously there's no top, it's all flat earth, like I'm just in the picture situation. So if the village which is on the top of the triangle, we will place it between the two other villages, and there will be some gaps. All three of them will be considered one village. How much is the gap which is allowed between this middle village and the side ones? If we can imagine pulling down that city to the base. If we pull the city down to the base, we are permitted to have, besides the dimension of the city, to have another 141 amas on each side, allowing for according to Ravuna. Ravuna says each city has its karfif, and each has its karfif, and as long as the karfifs touch each other, it's considered one city. So therefore, if we have three villages in the shape of a triangle, and the space between the two base, I'll call them the two base villages, allows to have that village in the middle, and there's a bit of extra space, which is not more than 141 amas on each side of that middle village. So then that is considered one village, and you can walk directly from the two. You can walk directly from the two cities which are the base, even though there's more than 2,000 amas between them. So there is more than 2,000 amas between the base, this one village of the base, and the other village of the base. But just by pulling down the other village there, you will end up, which takes up most of the 2,000 amas, obviously. So then it's considered one village, and you can walk with it. Therefore, there's no stira to Rav Huna in the Mishnah, because we do allow for each village has its own 70. Yeah, okay. Okay. What is the distance that is permitted? I mean, how, if I have, let's say, London and then Manchester and Birmingham, I don't know exactly what it is. So we see that we put London between Manchester and Birmingham. I mean, it's a few hundred miles. How exactly does it work? How much are we allowed to, all of a sudden, we're putting in cities which don't exist. We're imagining they're there between the two other cities. We can, in a country, you have lots of cities. Start pulling down the cities from all over, you'll find site it'll be. Yeah. So it says, how far can this middle city be from the two base cities? So that's what Rabbi said to Abaya. Amalese replied, Alpayim Am, 2,000 amas. So as long as the city at the top of the triangle is within walking distance of the two base cities, then it combines. Okay, so what do we say? That it's limited, that the city at the top of the triangle must be within walking distance of Shabbos between the two bases, each one of the base cities, in order to be able to be considered part of that group. So now the Gemara is going back up to the Amber. So you asked him, Rabbi asked back Rabbi, you're the one that says, Kavose the Rabbi berei the Rabbi Rav Huna distabra. You agree with the opinion of this Rabbi berei the Rabbi Rav Huna. The Omar, what was his shita? His shita was Yoser me'al payim amma, that we can even it's not within walking distance, more than 2,000 amos, it will also be counted and considered part of one city. So we don't. So in other words, you don't. This principle, there has to be within walking distance of Shabbos to be able to consider one city. We see that you said about over there in the previous Gemara, which we learned, that more than 2,000 amos is also can be considered one city, even though it's not within walking distance. What's the story over there? Let's remind ourselves. The story over there is that if you have a city in the shape of a keshes, a bow, so you have a city in the shape of a keshes. So now, I will call that the center of the keshes, from where the arrow flies out. Yeah, so let's call that the center of the keshes. So people who are living in this center of the bow, so these people, if they walk if they walk in the direction of the imaginary string, let's make an imaginary string between the two edges of the bow. So let's pull an imaginary string between the two edges of the bow. So you have the, so to speak, the cavity and the, I can't remember what I called it before, so we have the center of the bow, which is the cavity compared to where the string is, right? I would say. So we're saying that we said over there that people who are from the center of the bow and they want to walk in the direction of where the imaginary string, which we've pulled from the two edges of the bow, they want to go in that direction. So in fact, that Chum Shabbos is not going to start from leaving the group of houses or the wall of the city, which is there, maybe the wall of the city or the houses where the houses finish. It does not start from the wall of the houses, but it starts from the imaginary string. We extended, we filled up. We said the whole bow is considered filled up with the houses, and therefore the people who live at the center of the bow, when they walk in the direction of the string till they reach the string, that's all counted part of the city. From then on, start counting the Chum Shabbos. That's what we learned a few pages earlier. Now, so there was an opinion over there which said, you know what, that's very, very nice, but the string of the bow, it only counts if the string of the bow is within walking distance of the center of the bow. So if it's within Alpayim Amma is walking distance for Shabbos, so then it's considered like one city. I mean, like I pointed out the other time, it's like we're taking two. It's not a very instinctive logic, but there's a logic there to it. That, that if it's within that, it's considered choshev and whatever. It's considered as one entity. If it's in walk distance, it's considered one entity. We can say it as if it's filled up. We can sort of find a logic for it. So we said that. So there's one opinion which said that only if the string is within walking distance of the center of the bow, so then it can be considered one city. If it's more than that, it can't be considered one city. What's his name? Yeah, but Rabbi Berei the Rabbi Rav Huna, he said even it's more than 2,000 amos. He said even it's more than 2,000 amos between the center of the bow and the string of the bow. So that means it's not within walking distance. Nevertheless, it's considered as if it's completely full of houses, and you start counting the tchum only from the string of the bow, the imaginary string of the bow. That's where you start counting. So you said that we can include and make part. That's what he's asking about it. You over there, you said you can make part of the city. The halacha of being considered one city is not dependent on whether it's in like a walking distance of dinim, which has to do with dinim of tchum. Even if it's more than Tchum Shabbos, it can still be considered one city. Because it's a different halacha. We're talking about halacha. Well, let me not give a reason for that. That would not be correct if I start giving reason. Yeah. Even if it's more than walking distance, we cannot. It can be considered as one city. So why all of a sudden over here you say, the triangle, so the city which is at the top of the triangle will only be connected and considered the one with the other cities, and then we'll draw it down imaginary, we'll draw down that city down to the base, and we'll have 3 cities in a line on the base. That is only possible if it's within 2,000 hours. Who cares? So even if it's not within walking distance, you should be able to combine it and make it one city. So he said, so that was the question of Rabbi Tabaya. So he said, how can you compare? Right. There is houses, here there's no houses. In other words, we said that the string of the imaginary string is more than 2,000 amas from the center of the bow. That's it. So the imaginary string is more than 2,000. Therefore, we concluded that it's not walkable from the center of the city. It's not walkable to the string. But that's not true, because it is walkable. Why? Okay, you have to walk a little bit of a roundabout way. The person who's in the center of the bow will walk to the edge of the bow, and from the edge of the bow, he can walk to the string. And over there, we said that there's a limit, that the 2 edges of the bow, the maximum space between them is 4,000 amas. So that means that anybody who's living in the bow area can actually walk across the whole area of the string. Because first of all, he comes to the edge of the bow, then he walks 2,000 amas to get to the middle of there, and if he wants, he can walk back and then come the other way and come to the other edge of the bow and walk 2,000 amas and come to the center. Because that whole area, that whole string area is actually walkable. Okay, you can't walk directly from the bow, from the center of the bow to the string, you can't. So you have to go around that way, but it's, in the end of the day, it's walkable. Therefore, how can you compare it over here? Here, if the top of the triangle is more than 2,000 amas from the 2 base cities, then it's actually not walkable. So therefore, your question is not a question. Okay, next. Another thing which Rabbi says, what is the distance that's permitted to be between the 2 base cities? He asked it. So I guess the response was, how much should be between the 2 base cities in order that it should be considered the 3 cities as one, and should be able to walk from the 2 base cities to each other, even though the 3rd city is not in the middle. Should be able to walk there. Who cares how much distance is? The main thing is, like it says in the Mishnah, even for 4,000, 5,000 amas, same thing. Yeah. So if you have, I'm just going to say 5,000, just to give an example, 5,000 amas. If you have 5,000 amas, and the city at the top is the size, diameter of the city at the top is 4,750 amas. So the diameter of the city is 4,750 amas. So then imagine you're pulling it down to between the 2 villages, and then you still will have a space less than 100. It'd be less than 141 according to my calculations. If I'm wrong, then you just make the city a bit bigger. So you'll still have less than 141 amas on each side of the city to connect to the 2 outside cities. So it's one city. It does not depend on the measurement. It does not depend on the measurement of the 2 base cities, which they are from each other. It doesn't depend on that. It depends on the size of the middle city. That's what it depends. Plus twice 141. He said, yeah. Sorry. This is as I read it. It says, let's read it properly. What's the difference? It depends on the measurement of the middle city. and plus twice 141. So he asked him back, and even if it's 4,000 amas, even if it's 4,000 amas, which is, yeah. So he says, yes, if you have 4,000 amas, as long as your middle city is big enough for it, yeah, go ahead. 4,000, 5,000, the same thing. So then he asked him back, how can you say that? Well, we know that you cannot combine in the story of the city in the shape of a bow. It's taken us quite a long time. In the city in the shape of a bow, we cannot combine the two edges of the bow, and you can't say we can't draw this imaginary string. We're not permitted to draw this imaginary string between the two edges of the bow, only if it's less than 4,000. So the two tchumen overlap. If the two tchumen from the two edges, the 2,000 from the two, and the 2,000 from one edge of the bow, and the 2,000 the other, do not overlap, that means it's 4,000 or above, which means they don't overlap. Then you cannot fill up the area between the bow. It's not counted as one. I mean, the area between the string and the bow, that is not counted as one. So how come here you don't care about 4,000? Even 4,000, you say it's okay. If it's less than 4,000 by the story with the bow, so then you can count from the string. If not, it's more, 4,000 or more, you have to count from the bow. You can't fill up the area to where the imaginary string is. Amalei says, how can you compare the two things? Also over there, you can't say you fill up the you can't say you can't say in the story of the bow, you can't say fill up take the city of the where the bow is. You can't say take the place where the bow is, take the center of the bow and put it where the string is. You cannot say the concept of taking the center of the bow and putting it where the string. You cannot say that. What we do say over there, we say that the whole area between the bow and the string of the bow is full of houses, and we say we enlarge in the city. We say the city has become larger. We say you have the city in the shape of a bow. So I'm looking at it with eyes as if there's a city, not the shape of a bow with a string, which is empty in the middle. It's the shape of like a half a moon. It's a half a moon shape, and which is full. It's solid. It's solid with a house. That's how I look at it. But I do not move the houses which are on the. I do not move the houses which are by the center of the bow and move them to the string. I don't do that. Because let's see. Here we're able to say that we're moving the city. We take the city from the top of the triangle and we move it down to the base. What on earth is going on over here? So let's see. Over here by the triangle stage situation, we take the city and we imagine as if it's been moved down to the base of the triangle. And over there, the keshes, we can't do that. What is the difference? And looking at Tesis has a few, just to take a few nekudas of Tesis, is that basically in the story of the bow, we're talking about what is the walking distance for the person who lives at the center of the bow. There's a person who is living at the center of the bow, and he wants to walk in the direction of the string. So from when does he have to start counting to 2,000 amas? So we say to him, you know what, imagine it's full till the string, and you start counting 2,000 amas when you reach the string. So therefore, but we cannot say to him, you know what, we'll take your city, we talk to the person who is living in the bow. And which direction is he walking? He's not walking through some other direction. He's walking direction straight to the string of the bow. From the center, he's walking straight to the string of the bow. And it wants to walk past it. So we cannot tell that person, you know what, imagine that the center of the bow is on the string. Because if you tell him, imagine the center of the bow is on the string, then you will immediately be taking away his right to walk in the other direction of the center of the bow. Let's say he does not want to walk towards the string. He wants to walk to the other way. Now he's living in the bow, so he has the right to go 2,000 amas each way. And if you're saying to move the center of the bow towards the string, that is contradictory, because he has rights to go to walk in the other direction to 2,000 amas as well. He didn't make an Eruv where he gave up his right. So therefore, you cannot move it. You can't say you cannot move it from the center and move it to the string. The maximum what you can do is we say we're enlarge the city. It's a different story. So if it's not going to move, we enlarge the city, but you can't move it. So you can only enlarge the city to a place which is accessible by walking. That's how far you can enlarge the city. The place is accessible by walking. So therefore, if he can walk through a roundabout way and get to this place through a roundabout way, it would be accessible to him walking. No, we can enlarge the city to that area. But so that, therefore, if between the two edges of the bow is 4,000, then he cannot meet that. He cannot get to that place, which is he cannot get to the bow, to the center of the bow. If you walk, even walk from the edges, he can't get to the center of the bow. So therefore, then if you can't make the string, if you can't walk along the string, if you can't walk along the string, we cannot fill it up. We can't fill it up if you can't walk along the string. But there's no question of bringing the center of the bow down to the string. That's not a question. Here, in our scenario, by the triangles, we are talking about somebody walking. He's walking from one village of the base to the other village of the base. He doesn't care at all. He can't walk. He can't walk beyond the city at the top of the triangle. Let's say the city at the top of the triangle is 1,500 amas. So therefore, the person who is in the triangle at the base will only be able to walk to the city over there, and so that's 1,500. They'll be able to walk another 500. That's it. So he doesn't care if you move the city down to the base. Okay, he doesn't lose anything. So therefore, in that scenario, in the scenario of the triangle, since it's not contradictory to his rights to walk in that direction to the city, because anyway, he'll always be able to walk the other 500. So that for him, you can make the city, take the city, the city which is the center of the triangle, and bring it down and place it in the middle, imaginary, even though it's not true. It's imaginary. As long as that city is within walking distance, the triangle city is within walking distance of the two base cities. So then you can pull the city down imaginary, because this person who is walking from the two base cities, it doesn't affect him. He doesn't lose anything by pulling down that city from the top of the triangle to here, and therefore it can work. Okay, that's one way of how Tesis explains it. I think we're doing almost 3/4 of an hour today. I'm not sure what should we do. Let me just try and finish the Mishnah, and that's it. We'll stop with that. So we spoke about before. There's a distance of 140. According to Ravona, there's a distance. The distance between the two cities to combine as one city. So is 141 amas. We have that the distance. We can still combine the two cities. Okay. So Amler Safar the Rav Hariaktisfun, the Beneftisfun, the Mashchina le Tchume Mehaigis the Archer. The kids, you have two cities. One is called Aktisfun, and one is called Archer. and on both sides, the two cities on the two sides of the river Hidekel, I can't remember what's called, Tigris, the Tigris River. So these two cities are in Bavel and next to Bavel, outside Bavel, but they're on the two sides of the. They're two sides of the river Tigris. Now, so the people of Aktispun, they would walk as far as 2,000 amas. They would walk through Archer and another 2,000 amas. And the people of Archer would walk through Aktispun and another 2,000 amas. In other words, they combine themselves as one city. The Aktispun, they counted that chum on the other side of Archer. The Bnei Archer, people of Archer, they counted chum on the other side of Aktispun. And how can you do that? But it could be jealous. There's the Tigris. The mafseke yeser it's more the 141. Yeah, so the width of the river is just too big. So therefore, how do they count it as one city? The Kitzer, Nofek, he went down. Achbele showed him, Hani Amtov. The Shura is walls. The Kitzer, some leftover walls. The Mivli b'digeles, b'ayin ama v'shirayim. So there was actually some broken walls in the. It was sticking out of the river still, remnants of the city which had been. So the city was larger. Probably the river at that time was maybe going in a slightly different direction or whatever it was over there. And for these rivers, they change a bit. So. So there was a certain time when the river was much narrower, and therefore the cities were built. Later, maybe because of it's silted up or whatever, and so the river became wider, and therefore it flooded and destroyed part of those cities. But some was still sticking out. So therefore, since you still had part of the remnants of those walls of the city sticking out within the river, and then the spaces between them was less than Ayin Amma V'Shirayim, so that was okay, and therefore that's how they're able to be considered one city, because in the river you still have the remnants of the city before it was destroyed. I think we'll stop over here.